everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the panel on maritime technology startups. And I'm joined here with my panelists, Sean of Newark Venture Partners, Haymon of INNOPORT, and Fabian of Flagship Founders. I'm Marina Hadjipateras. I run a venture capital fund called TMV, and we invest in maritime startups as well as other industries. And I'm excited that this panel is taking place today. I think when I started TMV back in 2017, I am pretty sure there wasn't any panel that would have been focused on technology. And in such a short amount of time, the industry has come so far and is embracing startups and collaboration between tech. And so very excited to be here. And I'm going to hand it over to the panelists to just do a brief background on themselves and their companies, and then we'll take it from there. Maybe we'll start with Sean.
Great. Nice to meet you all. Sean Simons. I'm an investor over at Newark Venture Partners. Newark, obviously in Newark, New Jersey. You can hear my accent, from Newark, New Jersey. We are early stage investors on our second fund, been around since 2016 roughly. All of our LPs are in Jersey. Amazon is our anchor, alongside with Panasonic, RWA Barnabas Health, Prudential, TD Bank, New Jersey Devils, and a few others. We write checks between 1 to 3 million. Early stage, so pre-seed to Series A. We are an agnostic B2B SaaS fund. However, I focus primarily on supply chain, maritime, ocean, ports, middle mile, mining, and a few other more dirty offline industries. Know Marina for a while, so I'm excited to be here.
Great. Thank you, Sean. Haymon?
I'm Haymon, and I co-lead INNOPORT, the corporate venture capital arm of the Schulte Group. The Schulte Group is a German family-owned shipping company, fifth generation, with core business in ship owning and ship management. So we own a fleet of about 100 vessels, manage about 650. And over the last 2-3 decades, we've also built a very broad portfolio of service companies, mostly to aid the ship management side of the business. That includes a port agency in over 80 countries, new building supervision, warehousing and ship supplies, launch boats, underwater hull cleaning and repair, so a very broad service portfolio. About 15 years ago, we also started our own development company called Apps to aid the digitalization of the shipping industry and then to supplement that, to see how we can actually disrupt the industry. We obviously need to look a little bit beyond the internal processes, so that's when we conceptualized INNOPORT, the corporate VC arm of the group. So we do early stage investments for the last 4.5 years in maritime, port, logistics, supply chain startups, and also usually seed stage, sometimes a little bit earlier, a little bit later, and like to invest fairly broadly and very actively. So we want to engage with the startups at an early stage to foster collaboration between the startups and the corporates to facilitate the transformation in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, and Fabian.
Hi, I'm Fabian. I'm one of the co-founders of Flagship Founders. We are a Berlin-based venture studio. I don't know if you're all aware about the venture studio approach. We are working in the earliest stage possible of starting a company, a startup, because we identify problems in the industry and then start the companies by ourselves. We don't invest, at least right now, we don't invest in external companies, but we started 4 ventures right now, all focusing on maritime tech and maritime software. We partner with shipping companies for that, and 4 ventures are live right now.
Thank you. And speaking of partnering with shipping companies, I think one of the biggest game changers in the industry right now is the openness for collaboration. And maybe Haymon and Fabian, you could talk to us a little bit about that collaboration with the Schulte Group and INNOPORT, working with different founders who might be from outside of the shipping industry, and Fabian, with maybe even your recent partnership with Signal, and how that collaboration is fostering innovation.
Absolutely, collaboration is key and there's certainly some disconnect between the startup world and the very conservative shipping industry. And we set up INNOPORT specifically to further collaboration. Right? So for us, the process is fairly straightforward. When we find startups that we think are interesting and can change how we do business in the shipping industry over the next 5, 10, 20 years, we start a dialogue very early on. And for me, that means I need to reach out to the different business units within the group and gauge their interest. And then I get them talking together with the startups to make sure that our business units start thinking a little bit outside the box. If you do business the same way for the last 10 or 20 years, then it's quite hard to change. So to really bridge that gap, to get that conversation going, it's very important that we actively moderate that process, and that is what we do from INNOPORT. Right. At the same time, we need that dialogue to help the startups who are not quite often my founders are not directly from the maritime industry, to help them to understand this fairly unique industry with unique characteristics, right? And so the challenge here is really to align both sides. Once we have interest on both sides to collaborate, of course, then we try to come to pilot projects between the startups and the different business units. Ideally, if successful, this ends in a commercial partnership. And here, one example from our portfolio would be Big Yellow Fish. That is a mental health and well-being and engagement platform for seafarers and a micro-learning and training app. Here we have to talk to the training centers, to the HR Marine guys internally. And for example, on the training side, it's rather challenging because we're very experienced with a long history in training seafarers. We've got a pool of about 20,000 seafarers globally. Right? So this is a very difficult then it's very difficult to alter the status quo, right? So it takes time, but the conversation is going, the app is running on more and more ships, and we see collaboration doing very well in this space.
On that topic, perhaps a personal observation at the beginning. I'm not from the maritime industry, or I am now in the industry for around 4 years. And as a venture studio, we have to start with a problem. So my job is at the end to talk to a lot of people in the industry and ask, okay, where's your problem? Which problems can we solve for you with digital solutions? And I still am, super surprised about the openness of the people. When I started to do that, I was thinking, okay, there's a big shipping company. They're absolutely not interested in sharing their thoughts or their problems with us, but they are, and that's for me a very interesting observation. Sometimes it's even like they say, finally there is now a person or a company asking these questions, because these questions are important. And what we do at Flagship Founders on the company builder level, we have a kind of strategy board where we bring our shareholders and our partners together from the maritime industry with dedicated tech and VC experts. And I think it's a great setup where a lot of interesting things are happening. And every shipping company is bringing their main problem to these meetings to get things started. And apart from that, because you asked for Signal, for sure, there are straightforward financial investments in us and in our ventures.
And maybe just to elaborate a little bit more, could you describe one of the 4 companies that you've that are part of Flagship Founders?
Yes, for sure. Now it's hard to pick one. 044, perhaps some of you heard it. It's about CII and EU ETS management. The company is now 1.5 years old. They started with a classical CII prediction. That's not rocket science, to be honest. A lot of voyage optimization tools can do that. But the idea, and they launched this tool now 1 week ago, is to have a EU ETS management tool. I don't want to go too deep into details, but it's a pretty big challenge for shipping companies and ship management to figure out who is responsible for handing in the certificates when you have a voyage into the European Union or outside. And they give you this kind of accounting tool. So to hand in the certificates and to find a solution between charterer and owner for who's responsible for paying which amount of money. The company now, as I said, it's 1.5 years old, 15 employees approximately. They have a nice investment from Atlantic Labs, industry agnostic VC. But perhaps it helps you to get a feeling of how lean we approach things.
Thank you. And then Sean, over to you. I think one thing that we've realized is in terms of maritime VC investors, I could probably count them on my hand in the U.S. that that are sort of institutional. And
there's 5 of them, and 4 of them are on stage.
Yeah. What do you think? And I'm happy that we are doing it. But what do you think needs to happen for the maritime sector to get even more exposure and capital?
Yeah, of course. When one of the hesitations with maritime, I think from the venture capital side, is a lot of them are just unaware. They think of maritime, they think old school, giant international industry, which it is, right? And they kind of view that as we'll never be able to make returns. It's gonna be a longer sales cycle, and there's not the best founders building in these sectors. There's not a why now. And there's not really a urgency for us to invest in technology into these sectors. I think one thing that the maritime industry has been doing is kind of getting the why now piece out there. I think the IMO, changing the carbon CAI regulation in place has really pushed for more of this climate trend coming in. However, I think what maritime can do a little better job is being just a little more inviting, having more technology-focused days, working with associations such as the New York, New Jersey Maritime Association. I know I work with Stephen Lyman. He's constantly, carrying startups in the ecosystem to connect them to the right ship brokers, ship carriers, and kind of just get a little more awareness out there. I think when you look at any other tech venture event, it's a lot of young 25-year-olds wearing T-shirts, and if I look in this room, we're all wearing suits and ties. So, part of it is just kind of finding that middle ground, and where does this industry need technology to get to that next step? The next step.
Thank you. If you wanted to add anything, Haymon and Fabian.
Maybe only to Fabian's comment on the openness to share ideas and data, and that I think where a venture studio like Flagship Founders is very important to support that process a little bit from the outside, because shipping companies not necessarily are open to talk to each other about those approaches, and I think we need more of that. But for that, I think Flagship Founders can play quite a vital role to moderate that a little bit further.
And then just to jump off of that too, in terms of your criteria when you're investing in the maritime sector, how do you look at exit scenarios and revenue, and is it different than other sectors where the scale can be immense and the TAM is immense?
Yeah. Great question. I'd say not just maritime, but all industrial sectors have a slower start when it comes to selling software into those sectors. It's a lot more trust. I always use the 80-20 rule. It's 80% trust. It's who you know, and that's how you're going to get in the door. You look at other technology in Silicon Valley. It's a product-led growth model. You're charging $3. You're hoping 10 engineers use it. They tell their 10 engineers. All of a sudden, you have a 5x multiple in 6 months. And Silicon Valley is used to that. They want to see that. So part of it is back to the education piece. Like, look, this industry is massive. Okay, it's huge. It's not going anywhere. We hit a recession. We're still moving stuff, right? It's kind of getting that message across to these investors. And then back to the openness and willingness to work with these startups, get a little friendly with them, get these initial contracts going. And I think it's a bit of education also on the investor, just kind of understanding hey, this is a bit more of a waiting game, but these returns will happen. In terms of exits, depends who your customer is, right? Who are you selling to? Is it the carrier? Is it the port? Is it ship owners? So there's very different ways you could sell it. I'm a seed investor. I'll worry about that later.
for us, it's very important to be very honest and aligned with everyone involved about exactly this, about these market sizes, and as a kind of back of an envelope calculation when we're thinking about a classical SaaS, so software as a service model. You can reach $1,500 per vessel per month. When you have a proper software, that's around the value you can reach. Perhaps you can reach 2, but not 10. And when you now do the math and multiply that with 12 and multiply this with around 55,000 vessels out there, you have a revenue pool, global revenue pool of around $1 billion. And in a global revenue pool of $1 billion, we should not promise a 5 billion exit. That will just not happen. And there is the opportunity to build very, very successful and very valuable companies. There is the opportunity to build a company of 100, 150, 200 million valuation in these markets, but not a unicorn. And that is very important for us to make clear. And a lot of VCs, especially from the US, have problems to invest in these markets, I would say. Their economics are a little bit different.
Yeah, because of that, I think VCs can't use, because of that limited market size, can't use the spray and pray approach that some VCs, agnostic VCs, have probably adopted. But for us, it's a little simpler. As a CVC, of course, we also can look at the strategic value that investment brings. So we don't need to look at the exit in 5 to 10 years after our initial investment. We don't need that exit. We can look at the longer term investment into those startups, really help them get a foot in the door in the market, and then work with them over a longer period of time. So that's the benefit of being a CVC. So without that pressure of the agnostic VCs or financial VCs.
Thank you. I wanted to move over, and we touched on it a little bit, Fabian, but onto sustainability and the large focus on decarbonization in this sector. And perhaps you could talk about a few other companies that you're seeing and your view on those companies and focusing on sustainability and technology that's going to help.
I can start. I have to say, as I said at the beginning, we are not investing in other companies. So we are not screening the market in the way you guys are doing. What is important for me, perhaps to this round as well, is to say, okay, there are so many, and we heard about this in the panel before downstairs. There's so much buzz or so much things going around, alternative fuels, alternative propulsion, how exactly that will look like and how that could be financed. I believe there are so many opportunities for that topic from a digital and operational perspective. When we think about, and that's one topic we will tackle right now, about just-in-time arrival, there are still vessels driving as fast as they can to a port, knowing that they will wait for 5 days. When we think about the way freight and vessels are matched and how many ballast legs are happening out there. I think there's a huge saving potential, and that's why we are focusing on the digital part of it and not so much on the hardware and propulsion part of it.
Yeah, I think we have to separate that those clusters a little bit. So for one, of course, we have hardware investments for any technology that relates to new builds, right? But when we talk about new engine types that can run on methanol, ammonia, etc., this is nothing where we see a lot of startups. However, related to that, we do see some startups, very R&D heavy, of course, in green and synthetic fuels, because one of our challenges in the industry is, of course, the fuel availability. All the orders that we have currently in the market for dual fuel methanol, we don't have enough green methanol in the world currently. The current production does not cover the demand or the order book that we have currently in that segment. So we definitely need investment in that, and we do see both on the green and the synthetic methanol one, which is important since we have more clarity than I would say 2 years ago that methanol will be coming. Right, so part of the fleet will run on methanol, so we need the fuel supplies. Then we have hardware for the existing fleet, which is extremely important because obviously asset life 25 years, we need to see what do we do with the existing fleet, how do we decarbonize, make it more fuel efficient. So there we have on one side, of course, the retrofits, scrubbers, etc. There are a few startups in that space, a few that are actually successful. But then there is the topic of biofouling, of course, which is extremely relevant for fuel efficiency. So we see companies that work on paint. There are various players that work on very efficient paints. There are hull cleaning companies like let's say Nakai from Israel, for example, that work very early on when sort of just removing the slime before actually biofouling has a huge impact working on vessels when they're actually on the go. So there are many players in the market. Again, very few that are successful when the vessel is actually on a voyage. There are a few more on the hull cleaning side. Since also regulation comes up in many more ports that you need that you can't use divers, that you need actually ROVs to perform the hull cleaning. Then thirdly, you've got obviously the software part that Fabian also mentioned that we can use to improve operations and increase fuel efficiency. This is a fantastic topic actually because we can actually use pure software solutions to increase fuel efficiency. There's a lot of room for that. One of our portfolio companies, Signal, they use data analytics and algorithms and natural mechanics to give actionable insights to crew to really change trim, RPM, heading slightly to have a very good improvement on the fuel efficiency side. They're already operational and active with various owners and fleets and showing very promising results. Others like Amphitrite look on a very granular level on weather routing and sort of minimally changing the routes to not to face strong currents. Also very promising solutions, very early stage, but something that will even come more in the future. And then, of course, we have software that is more looking at the compliance side of things. There we have 044 that Fabian mentioned, of course. They are working also with our development company, Mariapps. And these are sort of the groups of technologies I see currently in the market looking at specifically the topic of sustainability and decarbonization.
Rico?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys paid both basically the main pieces. I think there's distinction between software and hardware. Hardware's CapEx, there's no question about it. From early stage investor, takes a lot of money. There's a lot of the things around retrofitting, barnacle scrapers, bolts, hull cleaning, hull painting. Question earlier you mentioned around like VCs being a little shy. That's going to be one of them, right? Those are longer sales cycles. Takes a lot of investment up front, especially if you're talking robotics. Where I view a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of greenwashing in all of climate technology, whether it be credits or other things, is just getting from Web 1 to Web 2, right? How do we just get software in place? A lot of these ports just got internet. How are we starting to think about cybersecurity? You can't really start implementing all this new wave of technology before we get the basics down, right? I think as ships start to get retrofitted, how are we going to start ordering more parts and services? One of Marina's company, Skipscart, right? How do you create easy B2B, vertical SaaS platform where both the port agents and the suppliers can easily get into the flow of procurement, so we can get the ship back out at sea. That's where I'm thinking a lot of how do we get to the next step within climate? Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. I think there are different steps to take, and it's really just getting adjusted, even to putting new technology on board. And but speaking of either cybersecurity or procurement, can you talk to us, maybe starting with Sean, about apart from sustainability, what else you're seeing within the industry? We were just talking about insurance earlier.
Yeah, I look at everything within stuff that's moving, which is supply chain around the 4 flows: the flow of information, the flow of documentation, the flow of finance, and the flow of the actual asset good. And more often than not, you need to focus on 2 of those to really start implementing into a workflow of whatever team it be. I think one big bottleneck within all of shipping is documentation. We were talking about elating earlier. Serco, right? Is that the name?
Secro.
One of TMV's portfolio companies is digitizing that entire process. Once you get into documentation flow, you can actually have more visibility in where stuff is coming from. You can then start getting banks involved. You can start lending properly on top of where those documents are coming from and where those ships are coming from. So I think just digitizing a lot of that information flow, you can start underwriting more of the shipping industry as a whole.
Yeah, very important topic, since obviously our engagement goes beyond decarbonization, and that topic actually overshadows quite a lot of the discussions that we actually see in the industry. As I said, we are one of the large crew managers in the industry as well. So with our pool of crew, we need to focus on people. They are our key resource, and we also look for technology that can improve the crew management side of things. So that can go in the direction of mental health, medical services, welfare, training, safety, and everything that also makes life on board the ships a bit more bearable. I mean, especially COVID has shown how difficult life is for seafarers on the vessels. And there are certainly solutions out there that make things better. Another part you mentioned, obviously, just-in-time arrivals for ports, supply chain visibility, and ETA predictions. Very important topic. We've got Portcast, for example, in that space. They have various customer groups, which is usually good for scalability of those businesses. Some of their customers are producing businesses that need the ETA predictions for capacity planning, etc. At the same time, it works for ports that really need to know when does the ship arrive to come up with solutions that help us with just-in-time arrivals. Right? We can also look beyond sort of the classic shipping and supply chain startups as well. We also invest in things like renewable plastics. We have ship chandling and warehousing businesses, and the amount of plastic we use for wrapping goods, for packaging goods, and sending that on board is it's actually quite a lot. So we need sustainable solutions for that. So we do invest in those as well, and I would say they're quite related to the blue ocean sector as well, since ocean plastics is of course a huge environmental problem as well.
Thank you.
To be honest, not so much to add. Perhaps not from the industry sectors, but when you look from a technical perspective, we are very much looking into AI. I know it's a buzzword, but it must be on this panel today. No, it will change the way we work, and it will change the way how vessels will be operated. And Sean, as you said, documentation is a topic. And for example, AI will change how that will happen.
Thank you. Next, I just wanted to focus on the investors of your funds and whether direct or going into something like Newark Venture Partners. You mentioned, Sean, that your investors are all based in New Jersey. Can you talk to us about who they are again and why they potentially would be interested in investing in the maritime industry? And I'd love to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So for context, we're in our second fund. First fund was $45 million. We doubled that fund to $88 million, and we're about to close our third fund pretty much this quarter, which is projected to be 150 to 200. We are Jersey guys, but I'm not only investing in Jersey. If that was the case, I'd be investing in just waste management, to say the least. No, Amazon is our anchor. Audible's HQ is in downtown Newark. The founder of Audible actually founded the fund. So that was the connection through Amazon. The other, I'd say, more supply chain oriented investors in our LP base, Ball Manufacturing, Estes Logistics, Crane Logistics, Panasonic, and a few others. One thing, they're excited about Maritime, and when I developed the thesis probably roughly 5 years ago, if you look outside in the city of Newark, I think everyone, pretty much knows us for our airport, and that's about it. It's the the one that's closer to Midtown than JFK and LaGuardia. But what other people don't know is we're actually one of the busiest seaports in North America, right? We actually beat Long Beach and LA a couple months ago on the container side. And if you go down there, I'm from outside of Newark. Half my friends work on barges or in the yard themselves. They're blue collar guys. I talk to them about technology and they laugh in my face, right? They're like, Sean, dude, like I just go on Instagram and I'll check it there, all right? I don't need to listen to you telling me about technology. So when you kind of then look through more what's happening in Jersey, it's Amazon's third biggest fulfillment state. We're an hour from Philly, hour and a half we're a couple hours from DC, 20 minutes from downtown Manhattan. We are one of the busiest logistics hubs in the nation on the East Coast corridor. So, when we start looking at, how we can win deals and where we can actually make an impact and get, really quality founders, I don't want another trucking company at the end of the day. Let Omaha, Nebraska take care of that. Let Chicago take care of that. I want to be in the ocean space. So that's what we really get our LPs excited about.
Thank you. Haymon, I know, being part of the Schulte group, I'd love to just talk to you about outside investors or how you're thinking about funding the companies if it's just going to be in-house. I think something that's really important is, as an example, showing that you're interested and you've built this arm from a ship owner in order to look at innovation, just like Signal Group has with the Martinez family and others. But I'd love to get your perspective coming from a ship owner.
Yeah, I mean, INNOPORT, of course, is a single LP. So we only have, we are 100% subsidiary of the Schulte Group. So for us, and this is also how it's supposed to stay. So we act only on behalf of the Schulte Group, but it is very rare that we actually do investments in startups on our own. So we love to co-invest with other investors from the industry, also with other CVC arms from other shipping companies, because we really believe that the collaboration between the players in the industry is key to innovate. And this is something that is hard to achieve in this very conservative industry. But we also then, of course, co-invest with other more agnostic funds. We work with venture studios like Flagship Founders. We work with TMV on investment deals. And I think that this is really the challenge, to bring the right group of investors to build those companies, to give them the right foundation to scale, so also to become more attractive for financial VCs.
Thank you. Fabian, do you want to add anything on your end? I know you've got some partnerships that...
I would say we have a nice shareholder or investor structure, very much from Europe, small and medium-sized shipping companies on the one hand side, and tech experts, VCs on the other hand side, and would be happy if the US will be stronger on it. Yeah.
I'm looking.
We've got just about a minute or two left. I wanted to open it up to the audience.
The problem with those startups, it is not it's usually not the ship owner and charterer, ship manager to invest in those solutions, because we obviously face competition all around the world. There are some initiatives, but they are more on the NGO side than actually on the VC side that we see. So I've seen one or two that look into those stuff, but they more look for public funding in that space.
You mentioned AI.
You want to start with that?
I think with any hype investment, there's going to be a lot of BS, to be honest, right? What's coming into it. I think with AI specifically, we're at this wave where it has, the past 10 years, gone to a point where it actually is applicable and you can actually use it. I think it's about sifting through which data the AI is going to be reading. We have a company, Ocean Freight Exchange. It does bulk commodity shipping between Southeast Asia routes, right? They right now are scrubbing everything from weather data to historical data to port management data, emails, and they're better predicting the better prices, routes, fuel costs. They're using AI to basically dictate that. took a while to get the AI language model to get that more accurate pricing. And I think it's going to be use cases like that. Now, how many of these AI solutions are going to be more point solutions or actual companies is going to be a next question. Some of them are actually going to be, in the actual workflow, or is this kind of just like, hey, this is nice to have, but I got a guy in London who does all my brokering, and I really don't need to use the AI, to be honest. So.
Well, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the audience and Capital Link for joining us today.